Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for watching this quicker run-through of the forecast over the next couple of weeks, plus some of the new longer-range stuff for both North and South America. We're going to start with our all-hazards weather map early this morning. Flooding continues for parts of the Pacific Northwest. We're going to watch the snow levels come down a bit after the mild air that's moved into this region. So some better snows are going to come into the Cascades and some of the mountains here in the northern part of California. There's also some better snows for parts of the Rocky Mountains as we press forward with this as well. But this has been an area that over the last week has been absolutely hammered with precipitation. We're off the top of my color bar here, so some places picking up over 10 inches. Now, the rest of the country's waiting on this midweek system, or this late week system, to form, to start to roll from the Central Plains into New England. But that one's evolved quite a bit in the near term, with each new forecast coming up with a bit different solution. So let's get into it and kind of figure out what's changing. First, we are going to watch the Northwest continue to get lashed by a frontal boundary through the rest of the day today into tomorrow morning. And then we're going to also see that snow moving over the Rockies through tomorrow morning. The wave that's producing this is going to produce a low that's going to curl up between Saskatchewan and Manitoba right here. And as it does so, produce some snow in the southern Canadian prairie that'll dip into parts of North Dakota as well. We did notice that, if I take you back, there is some lighter snow moving over the Great Lakes in Ontario today, and spreading some light snow into parts of New England as well. But with the next system that comes out here on Thursday night, the risk getting into Friday for stronger storms here in the southern plains. And then again on Saturday, we can see here that this will be an area from the south into the mid-south that needs to be on the lookout for this next system. But the problem has been this. The wave that's creating it, see this trough here? It's got one issue that's missing, and that is stronger winds through the base of the trough, which means that this system is more elongated, and it's not going to be more punctuated in how quickly it's going to develop. It's going to take all the way until it gets to the northeast before it really starts to wrap itself up with better upper-level dynamics into a deeper system. So what that all boils down to is this. This is the GFS on the left, the European on the right. We're picking this up right where the high-res NAM left off. And what you're going to see is the snow moving through the Canadian prairie toward parts of the Hudson Bay. And then behind it, this is now Saturday midday. This is the system that previously had brought much heavier rains here and then snow on the backside. And now you can see in both models we've trended away from that in a big way. When does this low really start to become a bit more potent? Well, if you look at the European model, it tries to really curl this thing up this weekend into parts of New England. It's there in the GFS, which is a quicker forecast run. In other words, it moves it quicker to the east. But that's what we're going to have to see the best upper level support for this system to finally get developing. Now, the Northwest during this whole time period continues to see stronger onshore flow, which is why when you look at total precip over the next week, we have another 2 to 4 inches coming in here. But the wettest conditions are now shifted east, away from the parts of the Midwest and the prairie and the plains, and away from the Southwest as well. So this is the next 7 days from the European. There's the next 7 days from the GFS. We look out there at the probability maps. I just want to show you the drier side of it today. Who is getting less than a half inch over the next 10 days is shown here in this map. Very dry in parts of the plains, prairie, and southwestern United States. If we walk region by region through the snowfall, this is the about 8-day forecast out in terms of total snow in the west. Again, we're going to be adding some better snows in the Cascades and Northern Rockies, and I'm watching a system next week, late next week, down here in the southern plains. You can also see that here in this Midwest view, but the biggest change has been right in through this area. We had been projecting much better snows here, and the models have now backed way off on that, given the lack of upper-level support for the more rapid development of this low over the Midwest. We then look at New England. That's where the low curls up, so that's where our greatest snowfall forecasts are going to be right now. We're going to keep an eye on the evolution of this, so don't take this map and say this is exactly what's going to happen. You're going to continue to see this evolve in the next few days. Beyond that, by day 10, a drier go of it across the northern tier of the United States because of northwest flow giving us convergence. But I am seeing out here toward the 18th, 19th, and 20th a signal I kind of like to see. Ridging building into the North Atlantic, some troughing south. That could mean a bit more active go of it south and then up the East Coast. But as it stands, the week 2 forecasts are primarily drier because of the way the pattern starts off across the whole of the northern tier of the United States. Again, I'm watching next week for the potential for a low to be coming out of the southern plains. We'll talk more about that later on this week. Temperature-wise, very warm in the midsection of the country today and tomorrow. There'll be a frost in parts of the southeast tomorrow, but much more mild air is advancing Friday into Saturday toward the east. By Saturday morning, I'll be concerned about a frost in the Central Valley of California as well, but we're looking at high temperatures. What you notice is as I play out there past the 10th, 11th, and 12th, we don't really connect to deep Arctic air. In fact, over much of the next 15 days, we just don't see the deep connection to Arctic air. It's all in Russia, as we talked about yesterday. Now, there's some cooler weather south compared to normal, and that is a very El Nino flavor to the atmosphere, but this is not a true connection to really, really cold air we could get in the month of December. It's going to be coming late in December and January, as we talked about in yesterday's in-depth report. Okay, South America, quickly before I give you some new long range. European model trended a bit drier in the Amazon. Okay, growing areas are down here. This is up in the Amazon. And they also trended drier over in this section of eastern Brazil. Wetter in Paraguay, Uruguay, southern Brazil, and look at Argentina getting some desperately needed rains. Now, the model battle continues for South America. Notice that the GFS has got a much more expansive area into Mato Grosso of drier conditions. Same thing for Goiás and Tocantins, these two places in through here. But it's also wet in parts of Paraguay, southern Brazil, and Argentina. So right now the question is, how dry is dry, right? And we've seen over the last week storms get into this area, but it's been about half of normal rainfall. Remember, we can still grow a decent crop with half of normal rainfall in Mato Grosso. The last thing, and I'm going to tell you to go back and watch the in-depth video for this, El Nino has likely reached its peak and it's crashing. So we are expecting to see this evolve toward neutral conditions by spring of next year, and then possibly even into summer, seeing weak La Nina conditions showing back up. We'll cover that a whole lot as we go forward, but I'm going to give you two last things to think about here. The newest run from the European model, which we'll be talking about all week, is showing the December, January, February precipitation anomalies. We've trended wetter for the west. Remember, this might be an initialization problem in the northwest. And then you can see a wetter area in through this part of the Midwest and Central Plains, while the Mid-South into the Ohio Valley still carries a drier signal. We need to see if this really verifies, or if we get a much more active storm track that comes out of this area rolling east, and also one farther to the south throughout the rest of winter. Remember, we expect this winter to be back half loaded. That's what we talked a lot about in yesterday's report, so go have a look at it. And one last thing to show you, remember that when this El Nino does end, which the models are forecasting it by next summer to do that, summers that follow a peak in El Nino look something like this. That's June to September precipitation composite anomalies. So I'll leave you there. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk tomorrow. Thanks.